Okay, hi. My name is Adam. I'm the community manager for Franchise Hockey Manager 2. Our stream is supposed to start at the top of the hour, but since the baseball one ended a little bit early, we're going to start a little early. As you can see in front of you, you have the main menu for Franchise Hockey Manager 2. The biggest thing I would like to point out, as always, that can help answer any questions you might have to begin with, is this manual button right here. Okay, hi. So, what the whole point of this game is to manage your favorite hockey teams. You can play in 21 different leagues from across the world, and you can go all the way back in history, back to 1931-32 NHL seasons. More things are planned in that, so we'll see if more keeps adding. One of the future updates that will... Not updates, sorry, that's not correct. One of the future streams I'll be doing will be on the WHA years in the rivalry that they had versus the NHL. So that'll be focusing on the 1970s. So, what I'm going to do here is begin my previous game. I've started a league game as the Winnipeg Jets, because they are my hometown franchise. And things have gotten off to a very rough start, as you will see here once the game loads in. I am currently sitting at 3 wins, 8 losses, and 0 ties. I have 6 points going into Sunday, November 1st. The good news is, however, though, was that I have won my last 2 games. So we take success wherever we can get it. For some reason, my Twitch is not loading at the moment, so if you are asking questions, I'm sorry, I can't see them. Now, as you can see from my roster here, and we'll go to, not my roster, actually I'm going to be dressing a 20th player because I'm missing somebody right now. So I'm going to dress Anthony Peluso rather than call up anyone right now. As I can see, and let me just go to my mail here. In my last game, I had a very bad problem. Brian Little, my number 1 center on my team, I'm sorry, I can't see them, was injured for the next 3 weeks. Part of the reason why the Jets have also suffered was back at the beginning of the season. As you can see from my roster here, I lost Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele for the first month of the season. The good news is Mark Scheifele is just about back. He'll be back for the next game after this one. So hopefully everything keeps going and my guys can stay healthy for one more game. But right now I'm looking at my lines here. And what we can see is I don't have a number 1 center, so I need to readdress that. Rather than put Anthony Peluso, who was on the just got dressed as a center because he is a right wing, I'm just going to move Adam Lowry up to first line. I'm going to move Matthew Perreault to a center because, as we can see over here on the left side, Matthew Perreault is a center, left wing or center. I'm going to move Nick Patan up. I'm going to move Scott Glennie up. I will slide Chris Thorburn over to left wing because he can be. And on right wing, I'm going to bring in Anthony Peluso for my 4th line. Michael Hutchison is also the number 1 goalie on my team because he's got a higher leverage than Andrei Pavlik. That being said, he's down to 89 for how strong he is. I'm going to leave him in for now and hope things go well in my next game. Now that my lines are set, I feel pretty good about things, but if I want to check my tactics, which is something you should do, and I want to see in how my team's doing. So we can see that I've set my first line to shoot first. They don't need to pass, I want them to shoot. Part of the problem with the Jets starting off is they have a tendency not to get a lot of shots. So having your top guys shooting is something that is, of course, very important. You can have the AI do that, yes, do the lines. If you go back to your line setting, there is the action button up here. Unfortunately, my stream is not showing the drop-down box, but one of the things you can do is have AI set up organization or ask the assistant to do it. If the assistant does it, he will autofill it. You can also change those settings by going to the Manager tab, going to Manager Options, and going down to this Team Control settings, where you can set everything to what you want. So apparently my tactics were set to my assistant. I'm going to change that to me. And my scouting I left to my assistant, and set training to my assistant, just for one less thing for me to worry about. So if I go back to my tactics here, we can see what my first line is. They're fairly aggressive. I want them to play roughly 19 minutes a game, which is something that I think is very important as setting to find out. So again, going to my second line, we can see I still want them shooting. Now it's at 19 minutes. I want to turn that down a little bit. I only want them to play 18 minutes. My third line, I'm actually going to turn them down another one, go to 16 minutes is what I want their max to be. And going to my fourth line, I'm going to try, at most I want them playing about 10 minutes a game, which is trying to keep balance so nobody gets too tired. Sorry. Hitting the home button is good because it always brings you back to your main screen. So now I can see it is Sunday, November 1st. I have a game versus the Canadiens, so I'm going to hit the play tab, go to play game. Please check your lineup. Alright. I missed putting a center on my power plays and my 4-on-4. So let me move and Adam Lowry up again to both. And so I need to add another center to my power plays. So I'm going to move Andrew Kopp, who's been a good young center for me. Actually, okay, Matthew Pro's on the point, so I'm going to move Andrew Kopp into the middle. And Nick Patan, who spent some time going up and down, I'm going to move him onto the wing. And I'll do the same thing with the 5-on-3 power play. As for 4-on-4, due to all the injuries, I am again going to change this up and actually put in Nikolai Ehlers. His speed might be something that could be useful. Alright, so now hopefully everything is set. Except for I should probably add some more shooters in case that comes to a shootout. I've had my second win of the season did come to that. And so add. The only change I made to the Jets roster, other than I had initially sent Nick Patan down to the AHL, which made him very unhappy, I had signed Scott Glennie. Scott Glennie is a Winnipeg boy, and he played for the Brandon Wheat Kings. I felt I needed some extra depth, so I added him to the team. He played well enough in the preseason that I decided to keep him on the roster. Alright, so let's give this play game a try again. Check my lineup first. And penalty kill, I missed someone again. Okay. So I will add Adam Lowry in. Okay. So I think that's everybody now. So let's try this again. Alright, so now we see our game preview. You can see how we're doing for goals, power plays, and what position our teams are in. So you can see my power play goals have me tied for 29th in the league, just like the very much real NHL Jets. My shorthand goals, well, I've got one. But I'm doing very low in the categories. Again, missing my number 2 center and my number 1 right winger is definitely hurting my team right now. Michael Hutchison, again, hasn't had a great start of the year either, with 1 win and 3 losses. But part of that is just because of the way how the team played. So, moving on, we'll hit continue to game. Now, this is an important point I want to point out. I skipped past it, but if you have checked the blog, you may have seen this. If you do not have your resolution rate, you will be missing some of this information. What usually happens is you will not see where my mouse is right now, and you will be missing these buttons often. So if your game needs to be played in either a window mode that's large enough, or you need to go full screen to make sure you're seeing everything. Now, we can see from the controls, the watch mode, you have all these different options. Again, if I click the drop down box, it's not showing you what it is, but you have 6 different options. You can play full game, we could do offensive zone entry, all shots, action expanded, action condensed, or scoring summary. I usually like playing action condensed just because it's focusing on the important things that are happening in the game. Now, again, with the play-by-play speed and the clock speed, you can set them anywhere from very slow to very fast. Play-by-play, when something exciting is happening, I like being able to read it, so I have that set to normal. Clock speed I have set to very fast. So, I'm going to leave it on these for now so we can see how the game starts. Now again, if you want to make any in-game adjustments, you have your option to go to your lineup, see everyone who's dressed, make sure they can fit in where you want. This is where you can also switch your goalies. And if you think, say you're down 4-1, you want to make sure guys are shooting, here you can come in again, change your lines, and make sure everybody's going however you want. Alright, so let's begin. Carey Price is having a little bit of a rough season as well for the Montreal Canadiens. So as you can see, the clock's moving at a fairly good pace, which is okay. We can still see our stats. But here's what we go. We can see now, part of the reason why I like to play an action condensed is because it allows me to play multiple games fairly quickly. If you want to be able to watch and see everything that's going on, then you can obviously change that. I like being able to make sure things keep moving, and that way it keeps it exciting for me. But to each person is their own. So Montreal's on a power play, and they are absolutely keeping the puck and all the pressure in our zone. If you're tuning into the game for the first time, you may notice that the game does not include the NHL logos. This is because the game is currently unlicensed. If you want to add the NHL logos or any other logos from any other leagues, you can do that. I would suggest going to the OOTPD forums and checking out the mod section. Now, as you can see, and by all the shots tracking, the Jets have actually been able to put in a decent amount of pressure and been up to 6 shots, which is pretty good considering they're spending some time. And pretty good considering it took them halfway through. Hey, and even better, Ehlers scored! So the Jets go up 1-0. It's just by Harrison and Ladd. Yeah. So that's something we really want to watch, is the game fatigue and shift fatigue, which is seen by the players' names. Often you'll get the odd combinations because guys just seem to be too tired, or more than likely it's somebody coming out of the penalty box, so the lines are all mixed up. For instance, I noticed for about 2 minutes during one game, Tyler Myers was up playing on the wing. And it turned out it was because he was coming out of the penalty box and just couldn't get off. Oh, wow, 2 goals. This is very good for the Jets. Assisted by Ladin Perot. Oh, very nice. So that's the end of the first period. Now, if we want to, we can always change. And change stuff. So I'm going to change this to going to full game, and we'll just watch and see the different speeds as it goes. So we can see how it ended. Now, we can see how the shots are tracked. You can leave them on if you want. We can also see where the goals are scored from. Or we could take the filter off, and so now we're at a fresh sheet. And that's how we'll play the second period. Also of note, we can take note of our stats. So Winnipeg had 2 power plays and got a power play goal. Ended up having 11 shots, which is good. 6 block shots. And 9 face-off wins, which I think might actually be a season high for the Jets. And 9 hits, as the Jets should. So let's go hit click play, and we'll start the second period. I'm going to just turn the play-by-play speed up. Just up to fast, just to keep things moving a little bit quicker. Because we are on full game now. As you can see, the time moves a little bit different, which is fine, but we're getting a lot more information of how everyone is playing. So if we click the stats tab, it's just a bigger sheet of going over. The game's still being played while this is going on, while you check anything up here, unless you hit the stop button. So you can do things on the fly, but if you're doing, say, an action condensed game, it's probably a good idea to stop the game, make your adjustments, and then get back in. So I'm going to stop it right now, just so we can get a little bit more speed. I'm going to do offensive zone entry for the watch mode. See if this speeds us up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to change that play-by-play speed down to normal. So we can read it instead of it flying off the screen. Oh, the fourth line gets a goal. That's when you know your team's playing well. Surprisingly, there's only been one shot in this period so far, which has been a goal. I think the goalies would be having a tough time stopping any shots with that rate. So yeah, you can see individual ratings, and that's because that helps affect the game progress. Sorry, I missed that question. Usually on this, you can get a pretty good idea, anyways, from what's going on just by how your team's playing. It's fairly easy to note who's on the ice when goals are being scored. Oftentimes, there's not a lot you can do, but you can make those adjustments yourself. The biggest thing, just like in real hockey, is you want to make sure your team is not spending too much time in the box. I guess the other thing I did change, which I forgot to mention as well, I said the only change I had made was adding Scott Glennie, but I kept Jay Harrison up with the Jets, and I sent Ben Chirot back down to the minors to get some more seasoning. Harrison is on the final year of his contract, and I figured if by chance I happen to get the Jets into a playoff position, he might be a player I could move for somebody else. So I'm just going to look at the box score here while the game's going on. And I can see player summary, see how everybody's doing. Biggest stat track I want to keep track of here, of course, is plus minus. If somebody's going minus, I need to know why. Luckily for me right now, the Jets, everybody's doing okay. Which, again, is very early in the season, but it's always good when your team's getting some wins. So I'm going to stop here again, just while the pressure's on, and I'm going to go to action, or all shots, and just go to play for a little bit here. So we can see how the change is made. If you enjoy management sims, Yahoo Yoshi, I think there's a lot of fun to be had here. It's a great game to learn about hockey, learn about players, and I think it'll actually get you into some hockey. Oh man, Montreal just scored. That's unfortunate. But Montreal's been controlling the puck for most of this period, which has been not good either. Luckily, I still have the 2-goal lead. The toughest thing, Yahoo Yoshi, for someone who knows nothing about hockey would be just knowing a little bit about the players who are currently playing or who have previously played if you go to historical modes. But the game has rating systems to give each player a star rating. And so by using that, you should be able to figure out who are the most ideal people to be as a part of your franchise. Oh, Lowry taking a penalty. Oh, if you're enjoying out of the park baseball, then there's a lot of similarities between the two games. I mean, obviously they're made by the same company, so you'll have a lot of things will look somewhat familiar to you. Barstow's right. Yes, you can also do some quick sims to see who develops well, but sometimes you just want to have some fun and figure that out for yourself. No matter what, when I've been looking at recruiting players or guys who I might draft this next year, I'm really looking at to see who's got a decent star rating. If they're below 3, then it's probably somebody who I'm not going to care too much about. If it's higher than 3, then it's somebody who could turn into something for me. And whether that's a role player for a fourth line person or a number 1 center. Being the Winnipeg Jets, I have a little bit of a luxury due to my farm system right now. There's a lot of top prospects who are in the system who could turn into something good. Whether they will or not, no one really knows yet, but they're there. Rich, I'm not sure the game can go far enough to tell you how many more seasons they have to go before the Devils win the Cup. Although, to be perfectly honest, this season they're doing much better than anyone expected. However, you could go back to the 90s and see if you could get them to win another Cup. $2032. Oh. Well, Jeff, have you seen the Winnipeg Jets win a Cup? The Hockey News predicted that the Jets should have one by 2019. I think that might be a little bit optimistic, but you never know. Today's NHL is always constantly changing. Flyers wins in 2022 and 2023. Well, those have some good draft picks coming up then. Being from Winnipeg and a Jets fan. Oh, the Jets have 2 cups in 2025 and 2027. Well, that's good. I believe that could be possible if everybody turns out and they can keep some players under contract. One of the things that a lot of people don't know or understand is how good some of the 1980s Winnipeg Jets teams actually were. The biggest problem they faced was they had to always play the Edmonton Oilers. Had they not played the Oilers, they might have actually done well and maybe won a couple cups. So I'm going to switch again here to the Action Expanse. That went to condensed. Action Expanded for the third period for a bit so we can see how that goes. Now Andrew Ladd's still in the box. We can see the shots actually are tied up at 21-21. Penalty for minute 43. But the shots look about even. So again, I'm just going to take them off so I get a fresh sheet to start off with again. Action Expanded moves the clock a little bit quicker again, which is always good. Oh man, Montreal scored. It's always great when you can see older NHL players in their final years, especially when you know that they may not come again. I was fortunate enough to see Teemu Selanne his last time in Winnipeg, which was really a special moment. Oh, man. 3-3. Oh, the Jets have blown it. It's going by fairly quick, so I'm just going to slow this down to fast instead of very fast. Oh no, 4-3 Montreal. Okay, I'm going to stop here, just take a look at my stats. I'm going to go to my box score. And as Jeff pointed out in the stream, you can see the game rating here for how every player is doing. Jay Harrison is having a bad night at 47.6. But there's some guys right behind him. So we got Tobias Enstrom, Tyler Myers, Patrice Cormier, Anthony Peluso, and Chris Thorburn. So my fourth line is kind of hurting me a bit. But that's not completely unexpected. That happens. Hopefully getting some guys back healthy will help turn my team around. Now while the game goes on, I'm just going to add back the first and second period shots so you can see how the game's actually been going. Not sure why guys are firing the puck from center ice, but okay. Yahoo Yoshi, if you want to play as that ECHL team, you can absolutely do that. Or you could start in the NHL and expand to your hometown. Or if you want to go further, you could create your own league as well. There's a lot of different options in the game. Fourth line got Chris Thorburns in the box. Man, my fourth line is not doing well. Oh, 5 straight goals. That is rough. I would still like someone to explain to me how the East Coast Hockey League has teams all over the country now. Oh man, I gotta stop and I gotta pull Hutchison. Ooh, 6 goals. Oh, apparently it did it for me already. Pavlik's in the net. Okay. I think you mean mimicking real life. This is the Jets mimicking real life. But how many teams will actually do well if they lost basically their top line? Adam Lowry also missed about the first 2 weeks of the season as well with an injury. It has not been a very good start. Oh. Okay, I'm going to move this up to fast. And I'm going to go back to etching condensed. Very fast. Let's get this game over with. Well, yes, they did change the name of the East Coast Hockey League to just the ECHL, but it's still just a weird name because it still means East Coast Hockey League, no matter what they call it, as long as it's still the ECHL. All right, game minute 7-3. So let's look at our final box score here. Big surprise, Thomas Plekanec with 4 assists was the first star. Thomas Fleischmann had 2 goals and 2 assists, was second star, and Devontae Smith-Pelly 1 goal and 3 assists for 4th star. Rough go when you're up 3-0 and lose 7-3. Now I can spin through these, but I don't really care so much about that. I'm still going to look at my stats, and I can see Tobias Enstrom is hurting, Dustin Byfuglien, Jacob Trouba, Tyler Myers, Matthew Perreault, Nick Petan. Just about everybody got a line scored on them, except for, by the looks of it, my number 1 line. They were at 0. But that could have been on power play. Oof. Let's see. Which it was. It was a power play goal. Alright. So when I'm done here, I need to go down here, hit end game. While I'm done, I can hit the Finish Today button up here, or I can press the space bar. I'm going to hit the space bar. The good news is I got a couple days off. And that means Mark Scheifele will be back, and Blake Wheeler should be close to getting back as well. I will take a look once the simulation is done. You can see the Vancouver Canucks, for some reason, are in first place with 18 points. Having only 6, I'm a little ways back. Now, your simulation speed depends on a lot of factors. How many leagues you have said that you want to be able to see. Also, when your savings are done, I have savings set to once a week to make sure if I forget to manually save. So I'm going to go back to my team controls here. And actually, I got a new email called Board Confidence Rating, so let's take a look. Mark Chipman thinks this season is disappointing so far. You really need to improve the team. The performance of the last few weeks confirms this impression. Your record for the last month is 3-9-0. Despite the bad performance in general, Mark Chipman is very happy with your work as general manager in the Jets and assures that you will lead the team to a successful future. Well, that's good. He has confidence in me. So let's take a look at my lines here. If I look, sorry, not lines, I want to go to my roster. I can look at my injury list. And I can see Blake Wheeler should be back in 3 days. Grant Kletzum is on with chronic back soreness. He's gone for quite a while. Brian Little will be back in 19 days. Mark Scheifele is all healthy, so I'm going to move him to my active roster. I can now see I have 23 players and dress 20. So I need to undress somebody, so I'm going to take Anthony Peluso out of the game, obviously, because he's kind of been my extra guy. Now I just need to find Mark Scheifele, and I will dress him. You can do this by right-clicking and going to Dress Player. Again, can't show it. You can also click on them so you get this image showing all their position rating, how they're doing, offensive, defensive stats. There's the action button over here. You can also scratch or dress the player from this button. Yes, the saves do work across both Mac and Windows platforms. Very important to know if you plan on setting up an online franchise. So I'm going to go back to my lines, because now I've created a bit of a gap again, having Mark Scheifele in. So I'm going to move Patrice Cormier. Actually, I'm going to leave him on center. I'm going to move Chris Thorburn to the right wing. I'm going to move Scott Glennie down. Nick Petan back down to the left wing. Move Matthew Perreault over to the left wing. Move Adam Lowry down to second line center. And I'm going to bring Mark Scheifele up and put him at my first line center. Now I also would like to get him in my power play. So I'm going to put him on my first line power play. I'm going to move Adam Lowry and take Andrew Kopp out. So I'm going to move Mark Scheifele in again. I was going to put Mark Scheifele in my shootout. So now Mark Scheifele's rejoined everything he should be in. So I'm going to check my tactics here. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. That's the defenseman's minute. So how much is Dustin Byfuglien and Jacob Trouba playing? Forwards are at 16 minutes. Whoa. It should be at 18. The second line should be at 16. Third line, I'm going to put them at 15 minutes. Fourth line, at most 11. I'll even put them down to 10. And see, the fitness level of some of the players is down a bit. So I also want to go to my lines and make sure I put Pavlik in for the next game. Okay, so I don't have too much left I can do. I can read my email, my development reports, too, so I can see how everybody is progressing. Now I have guys all over the place. From the NHL to the AHL to still in minors, and we can see a long list of how guys are moving. More importantly, we can also take a look at how certain players are actually going down. So if I look, and I guess something here we can also look at too, is if I go to free agents, if there's somebody who really interests me, I can look for them here. I can see what their current abilities are and their potential. We got a lot of half-star or one-star guys. I probably wouldn't go to them, but I can filter, and I can filter out how I want. So how old? You can try and find somebody who's 99 to come play for you. I'm not really sure why you would, but you could. You can check your different positions. So as you can see, there's a bunch of goalies on. So if I wanted to look for, say, a right defenseman, select everything off, and let's put his minimum potential to 3. His minimum ability, well, let's make sure he's at least at a 2. And I got 4 hits. So there's not a lot of guys out there. But if I was looking for somebody really quick, there are some guys I could pick up off here. Now, I've also been fortunate enough to re-sign Dustin Byfuglien and Andrew Ladd to long-term extensions with the team. But here's my list of current unrestricted free agents. The big thing you need to make sure of is when you're in a contract negotiation, you do not have to give the player what he wants. That being said, if you lowball the player, meaning if you offer him much lower than what he wants, he's not going to be signed and he's going to become very unhappy. I got a lot of players here I'm okay with if they happen to go away at the end of the year. There's a few guys who I'm more concerned about, such as Joel Armia here, and I'll get around to signing him at some point, but it's not a worry right now. I'm back to the home screen. My next game is November 4th, so I got a couple days. I'm just going to finish today. finish today again because there's nothing really new. Maple Leafs have gotten off to a fairly good start. Now, I've also got an email here telling me Zetterberg's out for at least 3 weeks. Felt a sharp pain when it happened and knew something was wrong. Now, if I was going to try and make a trade here, that might be something I would try and see if I could get something to them because I might be interested with Zetterberg out. Maple Leafs are 5-5-1, so let's play this game. So I have Andre Pavelec coming in net. He's 2-5 with a 900 goals against average. Not very good. But hopefully with Mark Scheifele back and that ramifications will help out everything else. So I'm going to move this to it's on action condensed. I'm going to leave it very fast and we're going to start playing. Okay, Zyberian Warrior, sorry I did miss your question. Yeah. E-levels are to do with the completeness of scouting. And as Jeff points out in the stream, it's for players who have been scouted a long time ago or not at all. If a player's on your team, there's not a lot of need to scout him. If they're younger, yes, you should look at re-scouting them. But, for instance, someone like Dustin Byfuglien, I don't know if there's a lot of point to scouting him. I think if it's me, I'd rather have my resources somewhere else. And of course, Toronto's already got 4 shots on net to the Jets 2. Barstow, I will look if I have time at the end of the stream to try and help you out. If not, there'll be a new blog coming either late next week or the week afterwards that will have a walkthrough for you. Or our streams are going to be a weekly occurrence, and I will gladly look at that as well. If there is something you'd like to see in the stream, please let me know. You can let me know on the Twitter, which is @FranchiseHockey, or you can get to me on Facebook and send me a message, which again is @HockeyFranchiseManager. And 2-0 by the Leafs. Oh man. Not a great start for the Jets. Bermishov is all over the ice. And Jonathan Bernier is not playing with the Jonathan Bernier. and community manager of... Oh man, 3-0 Leafs. The community manager of Out of the Park Baseball, That Sports Gamer, has jumped in the chat, and he points out as well, if you have a question that is very pressing and you don't feel like you're getting an answer, or you'd like an answer, the forums at otpdevelopments.com are a very helpful place to get information. There's a lot of smart people on there who can help you out. Just turn the first, and you can see how things are actually going. 2 shots on net. 3 shots. The Jets are just not clicking. So I think I will be looking at making a trade for someone. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of assets to give up, which means I'll probably be having to deal some of my future players. Hey, a goal, finally. Nick Patan. Ehlers and Lowry. Very good. I'm just going to stop here, take a look. Oops, I want box score is what I wanted, to see how the team overall is doing. A lot of minuses. Andrew Ladd's not having a very good game. -2. Mark Scheifele, -2. Drew Stafford, -2. Does not help when your first line is giving up goals. Oh, 4-1. I'm going to throw Michael Hutchison in now, because apparently Pavlik does not have it yet. End of the period, 4-1 Maple Leafs. Andre Pavlik is a player who is just a mystery. He occasionally can play absolutely great, and you could think he would be the guy to lead your franchise, and the next game, you're never sure what's going to happen. Jets continue to pour on some pressure, but just can't get the puck past Bernier. Much like real life. I've debated what the Jets have done, granted because of Pavlik's injury, but bringing up one of the AHL netminders. Hellebuck is a very promising prospect, but I'm not sure if my team's playing this poorly whether he would be the answer or not. Five one. Oh man, even the Jets are making the Leafs look good. That's never good. Hellebuck has been a good thing for the Jets, despite the fact they've been losing games. He's been proving he can be the goalie of the future. But oh boy, a 5-1 loss to the Leafs. As you can see, just playing through on Action Condensed is a much quicker way to get through a game. Unfortunately, getting quickly to the end of a loss isn't all that happy. But we can still see some players have had some very good games. But some are not. So I'm going to have to figure out why and probably start looking at readdressing. Mark Scheifele's first game back. -3. Ooh, that hurts. That's got to change if my team's going to have any success. So we'll end the game. And just look. So my next game is versus Ottawa, which is tomorrow, so I'll just finish for today. You can see 2 players are actually on waivers right now. Ryan Garbutt, who actually was just traded. He's with the Anaheim Ducks now. And I can see you got my whole new scouting report. You can see there's a long list of players here, seeing what they're at versus where the potential is. Most of the best players I already have tagged up, and I'm going to have to start getting my scouts to look at certain players. But there's some people who you probably just want to stay away from. For instance, maybe this particular player, Erwin McDaniel here, he's only got a 1.5D/1.5D rating. Probably not exactly a guy who would want to spend time drafting. So because I am the general manager of the Winnipeg Jets, I can also take a look and see how the Manitoba Moose are doing. The easiest way to do that is click on the Winnipeg Jets arrow down and look at the Manitoba Moose, and I can look at their roster. I see Connor Hellebuck right now is rated at a 3-star ability with 3.5-star potential. A rating. He could be someone of the future for me. Eric Comrie as well is another good goalie who's been in the minors, who's only at 2.5 right now, but has potential to be the same as Hellebuck. But we'll have to wait and see what he becomes. And if I take one more step back, I can go to the ECHL and take a look and see how some of my prospects down here are doing. Now some of the injuries haven't happened, so I haven't had to worry too much about any of that. And I'll just press the home button to go back to the Jets. 3-10 for 6 points. Rough start. So if I go to my roster, I actually have Michael Hutchison on the trade block. You can see that by the designation of TB. I'm going to take him off the trade block. But I'm going to put Jay Harrison on. Alright. So I think that'll be it for the stream for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Again, you can follow us at Franchise Hockey on Twitter. There's a Facebook page, which is Franchise Hockey Manager, where we post daily updates on all things relevant to franchise hockey. If you are already playing the game, that's great. I'd love to see you send me some screenshots that we can use to showcase what's going on in your games. Several players have sent in some very interesting things, such as Chris Neal getting a natural hat trick in, I believe it was 85 seconds. So you're never sure exactly what will happen. If there's something in particular you'd like to see in the stream, please let me know. You can reach me on, again, as the Facebook, the Twitter, or on the Out of the Park Development Forums, which is ootpdevelopments.com. So thank you for coming and watching. We will be back probably the exact same time next week.